In Lies of P, the city of Krat is home to secrets that evoke both sorrow and triumph. So perhaps it should come as no surprise that one of the most honorable men to grace its soil is also somehow one of its most lowly villains. Heralded as a noble and honorable stalker, infamous for his treachery and betrayal, and with a past shrouded in as much mystery as his present, few would measure up to the legend of such a mysterious figure. You may think him brave, you may call him a coward. I'll leave that for you to decide. But this is the truth of Alidoro the Hound. To dissect the history of Alidoro is both difficult and confusing, as our connection to his story doesn't really start with him at all. Instead, we have to travel back to a time in Krat's history where the workshop union was thriving and strong. Unfortunately, not long after reaching its developmental apex, Krat's streets would fill with fear as the puppet frenzy bloomed into a dominant threat. With a mass of puppets slaying all who opposed them, specialists, known as stalkers, rallied at strongholds across Krat to resist the assault. Of all the locations decimated in the attack, it was the Workshop Union Tower that saw one of the worst barrages of violence in the city. Filled top to bottom with both scared engineers and skilled warriors from the stalkers, both would attempt to fortify the tower during the frenzy, anxiously awaiting the kickoff of what would prove a disastrous encounter. It's said that a vast majority of the stalkers present at the workshop tower died in the conflict, and that is to say nothing of the engineers within, who cowered in fear as they awaited the inevitable. However, while the workshop tower's current state still provides a reflection of the significant losses from that day, we know of at least one engineer who made it out alive and managed to find safety. Providing one of our limited few friendly faces throughout our journey, Eugenie functions as our quartermaster behind the fragile safety of Hotel Krat's walls. A foreign orphan from the country of the morning, she draws her skills from her family lineage, but knows little of who she is or where she comes from.
My family was a house of weapons specialists, but that's their reputation, not mine. I don't even know who they are. And my reputation is my own. I suppose my only connection to them would be weapons.
With Eugenie's support, we're equipped with a sharpened edge as we travel across a destroyed Krat, fighting against puppets until a new threat emerges. It's only a short while after arriving at the St. Frangelico Cathedral that we finally encounter the true focus of our story. Isolated on a perch overlooking Krat, this reprieve from the chaos and danger within the cathedral almost helps us imagine a time before the city fell upon such hardship. Peaceful as it may be, we're given a tentative unease as our titular subject provides a begrudging introduction that we're admonished for needing in the first place. Despite the presumptive air of importance, we're eventually provided a more formal greeting and an inquiry for recommendations on a secure place to hold up.
I'm Alidoro the Hound, treasure hunter extraordinaire. Yes, it's a nickname. I ditched my real name in the past.
In the humanistic effort to spare others from the dangers outside of Hotel Krat's fragile protections, we tell him to seek refuge alongside the other survivors at our historic enclave. After returning to our temporary home, Eugenie's awestruck excitement provides some context as to why Alidoro would be surprised we hadn't yet heard of him.
You know that stalker, the Hound? Is it true you brought him here? Wow, I didn't know he was still alive. Thank heavens. I'm so glad that someone so kind has reached safety.
Despite Eugenie's perception of Alidoro not aligning with our limited experience with him thus far, this new context at least provides some framework as to who this legendary treasure hunter is. Any doubts we might have had of his history and intentions are further assuaged when Eugenie asks for our assistance with a special request.
Will you do Me a favor? For once, it's not difficult or dangerous. Just give this to Alidoro. I'd give it to him myself, but he's in the barren swamp now. He'll understand the significance of this gift. I know.
She gives us a pair of gloves, made with love and care from her own hands, with the unique and distinct hallmark of one of these gloves accommodating for a missing finger, serving not only as a sign of her appreciation for Alidoro saving her life when the workshop tower was attacked, but that she hasn't forgotten the sacrifice that Alidoro had to endure to save her. However, when we deliver Eugenie's thoughtful gift, it seems that not only does he not remember saving her, but the gloves she made for him in an effort to demonstrate her thanks don't fit.
Oh. Oh dear. These gloves are a mess. They don't even fit. My God, I never did like that girl. She's just like him. Oh, never mind. I thought you had better taste than this. How disappointing. Get these rags out of my sight.
Taken aback by Alidoro's displeasure, we're left to puzzle over the severity of his response. Why does Alidoro seem to have such a strong dislike of Eugenie? And perhaps more interestingly, who is this him that Eugenie is just like, other than some nondescript individual that he also seems to take some personal umbrage with? With Alidoro providing us crucial insight about the green monster that lingers in the swamp beyond, we're left with little time to ponder these questions before continuing on with our pursuits. However, not far ahead, we meet another treasure hunter that inadvertently stokes the fires of curiosity once more. There, we meet a novice explorer named Hugo, who informs us he is just one more in a long line of people that seems to idolize and admire the famed treasure hunter Alidoro.
Hey, are you a treasure hunter too? I am on a serious expedition. You wouldn't happen to know a treasure hunter named Alidoro, would you? I'm a big fan. I plan my expeditions to follow Alidoro's traces, but this lock has me at a dead end, and I so wanted to explore the Hermit's Cave.
Informing us that he'll continue working on the locked door in our absence, he is still plenty happy to go on and on about why Alidoro's reputation is so stellar, and why he has such a strong admiration for him. However, as his adulation comes to a close, he makes mention of something that merits further clarification. Apparently, these rumors about Alidoro engaging in some rather nefarious dealings come into conflict with his rather stellar legend. With the same unbelieving tone of Hugo's dismissal of such rumors, he hands us a wanted poster to investigate for ourselves. A poster that cautions of a con man, charged with fraud and impersonation, and makes special note to call out that he is particularly good at tricking people. With skepticism now raised as to Alidoro's true motivations, our direct follow-up sees him offer a simple explanation as to why such falsehoods would be spread, and in such an official capacity. While his response is certainly measured and sensible, this, too, doesn't seem to line up with what little we've learned about the world and its people thus far.
Oh dear, your practical jokes go too far. Oh, a wanted poster. Right, yeah. Let me explain. There is an unscrupulous reporter called Medoro, and he's the epitome of yellow journalism, and he only writes favorable articles if you bribe him. One time, I didn't give him a certain antique he wanted, and he slandered me, just like this.
Given a new villain to chase, we know little of this Medoro other than the fact that he is the author behind the popular series of Vanini's landmark guides and a reporter at some point in Krat's history. But, with the biggest threat in the barren swamp still standing in our way, additional answers will have to wait. A fearsome creature created by the alchemists and left to the swamp to consume its fill of ergo until reaching enormous size stands in front of us. Consuming the corpses of the puppets that have come before us, this dire threat seeks to add us to its mounting pile of corpses and feed its unsatiable hunger with the ergo we hold within. Wielding immense power, devastating strength, and corrosive emissions, it is no surprise that Alidoro left the true danger of the swamp to us. As sweet as the triumph of overcoming such a threat may be, we're reminded of a potential enemy that may be lurking closer than we think. At this point, we're left with the inevitable truth. Even if this Alidoro is the same man we've been told so much about, there's clearly a missing piece of his history that merits further investigation. But with a lack of people offering anything other than pure admiration, perhaps seeking out this Medoro would offer more valuable insights. In a lucky stroke, we're provided a lead to pursue immediately after locating a special report, penned by none other than Medoro himself. The report details an alchemist, originally hailing from the Far East, that discovered a nefarious plot by the alchemist that is said to bring untold pain and suffering to Krat. After additional exploration, we come across the rusty cryptic vessel that seems like a likely candidate for having the answers. When deciphered, we're reminded of the old hermit's cave where Hugo was looking to make a name for himself by collecting the antiquities within. With no leads on where to find Medoro, the promise of additional treasure and valuables proves a useful time filler that merits investigation. However, it isn't long after our exploration begins that we find an old notebook with entries from none other than Medoro himself. Unfortunately, the notebook is quickly revealed to be nothing more than a snapshot in time rather than a current accounting of events, as it outlines the brief story of their traveling party in dire straits and deadly surroundings. As a concrete and definitive sign-off from perhaps one of Krat's most dedicated reporters, Medoro leaves these notes to us and asks for nothing in return other than bringing the truth to light. With Medoro presumed dead, there is nothing left to do but explore the rest of the cave, search for the treasures it's said to hold, and resume our path out of the barren swamp. Just as it seems that we're due to resolve our exploration with no noteworthy takeaways, an even more tragic truth is revealed. Following a series of writings along the cave walls that seem to slip slowly into madness with each new entry, we reach the end of this rabbit hole to discover an unusual sight: a mutated carcass. Its form bristling with tentacles and boils, oversized and dangerous, and yet it is entirely docile. As the pieces form together, we are forced to face the realization that we now stare at the remaining control and contemplation that Medoro has left. After all of his efforts to uncover the truth, after all the sacrifice he endured to pursue it further, we now stare at the reward received for such dedication. Filled with a sense of sympathetic loss and aspiring to grasp something akin to the human compassion pulsing within, we do the only thing we can to offer Medoro the long overdue peace he deserves. Leaving the cave to return to the familiar comfort of Hotel Krat, the illusion of safety is shattered as the vandalized remnants of the hotel's lobby welcome us to a frightening turn of events. In our absence, the Black Rabbit Brotherhood have infiltrated the protective alms of our home and made off with Geppetto in the process. In addition to our father's absence, Alidoro seems to have gone missing in the fray as well. Whether curious timing or suggestive indication is impossible to say, but indifferent to Alidoro's current status, we find ourselves traveling via a secret passage within Hotel Krat itself to emerge into the ancient and ominous caveworks known as the Relic of Trismegistus in pursuit of our quarry. After battling through the threats of Trismegistus, focused on tracking down the interlopers and finishing the job we were unable to complete earlier, we once again come face to face with the deadly gang of sweepers, significantly outnumbered. In a back-and-forth battle that sees both sides brought to the brink, we finish the ordeal by consecrating the ground of Trismegistus as the final resting place for the collective once known as the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. Even injured and strained from our encounter, we're quickly called beyond the threshold of this suffocating arena by the soft crackle of a warm fire and the familiar shadow that dances across the wall ahead. There, cowering in fear from the repercussions of his betrayal, we find Alidoro the Hound. while he plays the ally by offering information on our pathway forward, now seems just as good a time as any to finally demand the answers we've been seeking. Who are you?
Right. I had a feeling you would ask sooner or later. I am not Alidoro, the Hound. Not the real one, anyway. I used to be Alidoro's partner. I admired him, to be honest. He was amazing. Amazing at everything except making a profit, that is. We argued. One thing led to another. I had to kill him. But stealing his identity was the logical next step. My original code name is Parrot, after all. He was also from the country of the morning. Maybe he shares some blood with the girl.
With the truth finally revealed, no doubt remains. And all we have left to do is decide the fate of this murderous imposter. With Krat still overrun by death and disease, with our only family still imprisoned by stalkers in league with this charlatan, and with the untold harm they may cause if left to roam free, we put our skills to use by removing one more villain from Krat. As he falls, we also collect from his still form another cryptic vessel. Perhaps the key to some buried treasure or ancient artifacts he was planning to swindle. But hardly a meritorious pursuit in the moment given the grim nature of our recent discovery. After returning to Hotel Krat, we find that Hugo has made his way there as well. Following directly behind us in his quest to track down the famed treasure hunter, Hugo informs us that while he did find Alidoro's body, it was clearly too late to see how it had happened. Sparing him the details that took place following our run-in with the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, Hugo then lets us know that he plans to honor Alidoro's legacy by continuing his work, and collect rare antiquities with the same care and consideration of his late great hero. While the truth of this tale would be a disappointing end, deciphering the cryptic vessel found in Alidoro's body breathes new life into the real past of this legendary hero. When decrypted, we learn that it is a message from the real Alidoro himself, and meant as a parting message to his beloved sister, a young girl who, like him, hails from the country of the morning. A girl orphaned as the result of the alchemist's terrible experiments, and a girl who, in her moment of dire need, was saved from the attack on the workshop tower by her loving brother, who lost a finger in the process. When Eugenie learns of the Hound's death, she can't help but ponder what the real Alidoro must have been like. And in that moment, we are forced to choose. Spare her a new journey of questions that may not ever be answered, or give her what little information we have to offer. It is in this moment we have a chance to honor Medoro's final request, and bring the truth into the light. So, with confidence and zeal, we can tell Eugenie that Alidoro was a trusted and admired friend, an inspiring and talented explorer, and a tortured soul that was stopped just short of being the older brother he wished he could have been. In a way, I can only imagine that Alidoro's story is one that of course inspires loss and sadness. But it is perhaps also a story about triumph and hope. The representation of what it means to have bravery enough to put the good of the many above the good of the few. A symbol of what it truly means to leave the world a better place than you found it based on the actions you inspire in others, and the honest pain that comes alongside loving someone enough to keep them at a distance. This is the true story of Alidoro the Hound. These lore videos take a considerable amount of time and effort to make, and even with as much as I've covered here, there's actually a lot of information that didn't make the final cut that adds some really fun and interesting details. But if you've enjoyed this deep dive into another of Krat's beautiful stories, please make sure to like and subscribe and share this around, as I very much look forward to the opportunity to showcase all of the little nods that end up getting cut from these videos for time. I also want to offer a huge thank you to those of you that support the channel as a member as you make these videos possible, and to my editor, Mindy, who always does an amazing job of making these cinematic style videos sing. And with that, I believe my job here is done, and until I see you next time, party on.